Today, I'm sitting here in Las Vegas together with Michael Easter. So I repeat that I am here in Las Vegas. This is kind of insane for me. Michael is a professor, a journalist, a behavior change expert, and the author of 2 best-selling books, The Comfort Crisis and The Scarcity Brain. In Italian, the titles are Troppo comodi and Mai abbastanza. We chose actually Mai abbastanza so the Scarcity Brain as one of the books for our book club. So that's why I'm
Awesome.
here with you today. And actually, I've been following Michael for a quite long time through his books and also his newsletter, 2%. So I'm very excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm sure that it will leave all of us with new lenses on the world. So, Michael, what do you do? And why do you do it?
Oh, that's I have a strange job. I would say if I were to pull out big picture is I think that I just try and pay attention and observe people and things and phenomenon in life. And if something stands out as interesting or odd, then I try and find out about it and ask way too many questions. And then I write about it and communicate what I learned to people. So, and I would say that generally what interests me is human behavior, human health. How do you get people from, I think kind of one of my big thesis is that the modern world is great in many ways, but it isn't always set up to make us happy and healthy. And so what do we need to do in order to live better in a world that is sort of designed in a way that is comfortable, but might actually lead to some harms in the long term. So, yeah.
And why did you start it to get interested into these topics? Like maybe can you share a bit of your personal journey on that? Yeah,
what did it get me? I mean, I think I've always just kind of been curious, asked a lot of questions, read a lot of books always, and I mean, with the 2 different books, a lot of times I think that I'll pull from my personal life will set me off on a course that leads to sort of insights that I think can help others. And I don't think I'm unique in that way. Like that's how every writer is. It's like we're basically just trying to figure out our own crap on the page.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like with the Comfort Crisis, that came out of I got sober. And that was, you got to go through this real intense discomfort for a while. But then on the other side of that, my life improved. I worked at a health magazine where same deal with everything I wrote about. It was like uncomfortable in the short term, but it would give you a long-term benefit, like exercise, like losing weight. You're probably going to be hungry, like improving your mental health. You'll probably have to ask hard questions. So that was that book. And then Scarcity Brain, that came out of honestly living in Las Vegas, where it's just this town that's like built on getting people to do these behaviors over and over and over that hurt them in the long run. And it's like, why is that? When
you said you got sober, you like are referring to the fact that you really had an addiction to alcohol? Like for how many years did you feel that you were trapped into this?
Probably 12 years. I started drinking when I was like 16, which for the U.S. is very young. I mean, Italy. You guys have a very different culture around drinking, the way that I see it.
Yes.
And I grew up in a state. I grew up in Utah, so it's this really religious state.
Okay.
And one of the tenets of the main religion there is that you shouldn't drink alcohol, and so that creates this sort of weird. It becomes the forbidden fruit, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I can't do that. Tell me what I shouldn't do, because that's what I'm definitely going to try.
Yeah.
And so I probably started drinking when I was 16. And then I got sober when I was 28. And it was just kind of like, the first time I drank, it was like, this is great. This solves all my problems immediately. And it works for a while until it doesn't work. And then when it doesn't work, your life starts to just fall apart, basically.
Yeah.
But you can't figure out how the hell to stop. Because the issue with addiction, and it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be gambling, it could be shopping, it could be eating, is that you are choosing a short-term reward that causes you long-term harm, right? So like if you have a drinking problem or a drug problem, having a drink or using your drugs, they will improve your life in the short term.
Yeah.
Right? You will immediately feel better. Now, of course, in the long term, you start to pile up all these problems and things go to hell. And so in order to get out of that, you really have to be willing to be like, this is going to be really uncomfortable and it's going to suck. But then over the long term, your life improves.
But how does this addiction cycle work? Like, I think this is one of the things that you also exploded in one of your books. Like, how do you think that this gets started? Like, I also believe that you're 16 years old in Utah, and drinking age, I believe in the United States, is how much? Like
21.
21.
Yeah, 21.
So actually,
how old is it? How is it? What is it in Italy? Like 11?
No, in Italy it's like 18. But okay. To be honest, like I have never. So probably this is something that you're really outspoken in that. So it's really appreciating the fact that you're very vulnerable also in this sense. Like you're saying that you had an addiction and you were able to work through it. I don't know, to be honest, anyone close to my friends and family that had an addiction to alcohol. So I think, especially at this young age. So I was just curious to understand what happens in our brains when we start like in this mechanism. So there must be something underneath, right?
Yeah. So I'll say two things here. The first is that big picture. I don't think people do anything that doesn't make sense to them. So like, we can look at like a drug addict who's homeless and be like, why the hell is that person doing that? And the reason is simply because for them, using the drug, even though it's ruining their life, it's fixing the short-term problem. And so there's always like a problem that addiction is fixing. And the problem can be different for everyone. Yeah. Right. So some people you see, for example, there's higher rates of addiction for people who have, gone through like trauma of living in a war zone. And why is that? It's because they've gone through this trauma and then a drug or alcohol becomes a coping mechanism. Right? So people use substances to an extreme, usually in order to solve some sort of underlying problem. So for me, the underlying problem was I've just always been a high energy person and I like to explore the edges of life. Right? I don't like to be stationary. Like I get up probably like 10,000 times a day. I don't like to be stationary. I like to kind of explore the edges. I like intense experiences. And growing up in Utah, it was a relatively boring place. Yeah. And so alcohol was a cheap and easy way to just make life more interesting. Right? I know that if I were to be sober, it's like, what am I going to do on Friday night? Probably going to watch Netflix. Maybe I'll go to a movie with friends. Very predictable. If I go, I'm going to drink, you go, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Right? A lot of things could happen. Who knows where this night is going to take me? And so that allowed me to sort of find just like this stimulation that I that my brain needed. And like I said, that worked until you keep pushing that envelope. And then eventually it's like, you just behave like an idiot. Right? And like you get all these long-term problems. And so getting out of that, you also have to go, you have to figure out a new way to solve the problem that the drug or alcohol or whatever the addiction was solving. Yeah. So for me, it's like I start doing books where I go spend a month in the Arctic. I do books where I travel to, Iraq and the jungles of Bolivia, and I spend way more time outside. And you have to find something that is going to fulfill whatever that underlying thing is, solve that underlying thing. Yeah. I think you had two questions in there. I think I only answered one of them, but I forgot the second. That's very interesting. Like, first of all, like being extremely vulnerable about that. And second of all, like being able to understand what is the underlying problem and trying to fill this void from a different way. And actually, like it took years for you. Like it wasn't something that you say, oh, yeah, now the problem is clear. This is the solution. This is how I'm going to apply it. Right? It took a while. Yeah. And I think it was like, I knew I had a drinking problem probably from the time I was like 22, right? And so then you spend like 6 years kind of going in fits and starts and trying to figure it out. And then once it finally took that, I was like, all right, I'm done. I just naturally found myself spending more time outdoors, exercising a lot more, traveling more,
Did you have anyone you could speak about that in your family, friends?
About drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom. She's also sober. Okay. Yeah.
You had like
my dad. I don't know my dad. Well, I don't know him well enough to say this for sure, but he seems to have a alcohol drug problem.
Okay.
from all signs that I can see. And then my mom has been sober for about 40 years now. And so when I was like finally kind of like, all right, I got to figure this out, I called her and she had no idea because I hit it well.
She had no idea.
Yeah, because I'm an only child. And so she just worried too much, you know what I mean? And so she was helpful. I met some other people that had gone through the same thing that were super helpful. Having someone to bounce, when you have a problem, having someone who's been there to talk to is really important. And then two, it's better if the person doesn't tell you what to do, but tells you what they did when they were in a similar situation as you, right? So if you come to me and you say, well, I have a shopping problem. If I go, well, you shouldn't shop. Like, why are you buying that stuff? You should buy this instead. Do this with your money. It's way more effective if I had also had a shopping problem. If I said, oh yeah, I remember when I had that. Here's what I started to do. And the person can pick that up from you and feels more collective and empathetic.
Empathetic, I would say. So Michael, what's the price we're paying for being too comfortable in terms of society, especially in terms of health? Yeah,
I mean, I think that if you look at most of the diseases that kill people in the developed world today, so like heart disease, certain cancers, diabetes, even mental health conditions, I think they're all linked to the fact that we've really engineered the world to be as easy and effortless and comfortable as possible. And so, for example, we've really engineered movement out of our life. So the average person today moves 14 times less than our ancestors did for like all of time. We also eat far more, and our food is, at least in the US, super, super processed, right? It's like McDonald's all in packaging. And so like it just concentrates the calories. We spend way less time outdoors. So people used to live outdoors and were adapted to be outside. And now we spend more than 90% of our time indoors. It's like 93%.
Yeah.
We spend anywhere in the US 12 to 13 hours engaged with digital media. And that's all new within the last 100 years. So there's just all these advances, technological advances. They make our lives easier. And while that's a good thing in the grand scheme of things, that also comes with side effects. And the side effects are often our physical health and our mental health. So like we're making more money, our living standards are higher because we have email in our pocket 24/7. The side effect of that is we're all crazy because we have email in our pocket 24/7.
Yeah.
You know.
It's insane because before like starting this conversation, I was just like complaining about the voice messages on WhatsApp that are sent and that you cannot like see the text or like at least in a permanent way.
Yeah.
And now I was like, I am exactly being addicted to this, like being extremely comfortable. So I don't want to even make the effort to play the voice of the message and rather than reading the text. Yeah, it's insane. Where do you think, so you said like movement, food, but also mental health.
Yeah.
And even in terms of spaces, like if you think about the way in which our work environment is arranged, like we really don't have any interaction with the outside. Mm-hmm. So where do you think that lies the biggest like threat in terms of comfort among all these areas that you have identified? I think
it depends on what problem we're trying to solve for. I think that, but if I were to say like big picture, I think that people would probably the best thing a person could do is move more. Yeah, move more and ideally do it outside. And if you want to make it even better, do it with other people.
Why outside? Like, is there evidence that outdoor movement is better than indoor one? Yeah.
Exposure to the outdoors. Yeah. So there's lots and lots of research on this going back to the 1980s that basically shows that even spending 20 minutes 3 times a week in like a really green park, like a city park, it reduces stress levels. It improves productivity. It improves creativity. It goes back to the fact that, like I was saying, it's like humans evolved in outdoors. Mm-hmm. We lived outside for 2.5 million years, and our brains and sort of like our almost biological clocks called circadian rhythms, they're evolved for the outdoors to get a certain amount of light, to see certain patterns. Nature is comprised of these patterns called fractals, which are like these repeating patterns that you see in the universe. Like think of like a really small creek that goes into a medium creek, that goes into a big creek, that goes into an even bigger river, right? It's like these,
Okay.
So nature has those. And in the built environment, we usually have right angles, flat surfaces. And our brains really respond well to those fractals. And you get them more in nature. There's also the air is fresher. There's like all these things that happen in nature that many of which we're probably going to find out later on that we've removed ourselves from by being indoors 93% of the time. And so if you can go movement, okay, great. Well, now let's do it outdoors. So now we're adding on a second thing. And then if you do it with another person, now you're getting social connection. It's like you can solve a whole lot of problems with those three things. I guarantee you.
How much did you said? Like 3 times 20 minutes 3 times a week, 20 minutes?
Yeah, at least.
Minimum.
Yeah, the minimum. 3 times a week for 20 minutes. Then so this is this idea that I call the 25-3 rule. And it's based on this idea that researchers call the nature pyramid, but 25-3 rule just is easier for people to remember.
Okay.
So 20 minutes outside 3 times a week, and this can be in like a city park. The 5 is 5 hours a month in sort of a little bit more remote nature. So like maybe on a trail.
Okay.
But you still might have cell reception, right? You're like not too far from home. And then the 3, so you do 5 hours a month of that. And then the 3 is 3 days kind of in the backcountry a year.
Okay.
And so that would be a place where maybe you're camping, maybe you're at a cabin.
Completely out of your
comfort zone. A little more
zone.
remote.
Okay.
Yeah, a little more remote. And that combination has these different effects on happiness, on stress levels, on just a lot of good things happen.
Yeah, one thing that I really love about you is that you're not just, writing about, we should be less comfortable, but you're also like pushing yourself towards like your boundaries, and you traveled like in really remote places. You mentioned that you went to the Arctics. I read that you met like tribes and you tried to live with them actually. What were the main things that you noticed in their behavior that differs from our behavior, especially in terms of movement and maybe also diet?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I definitely like to go places. There's that, I forgot, I think it was John Le Carre who said, a desk is a terrible place from which to view the world.
A desk is a terrible place.
And I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So the tribe that I went and visited in Bolivia is called the Chimane tribe. And it's spelled
Bolivia, okay.
Tsimane, but it's pronounced like it's
Chimane.
Yeah.
Chimane tribe, okay.
And so I flew into La Paz and then took this I think it was 12 hours. It was like a 12-hour car ride on these dirt roads down at the jungle. And my driver, by the way, this is like a 1999 Toyota. It's just a piece of crap car. And he's blasting cumbia music. So for 12 hours, it was just like boom, chicka, boom, 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 chicka, boom, boom. And I was just out of my mind. Just like,
you were alone, actually? Or?
Yeah, I was alone.
You were alone? So just you and the driver?
Just me and the driver, yeah. And then he drops me off at this town. And then we take me and a guide who's like this indigenous guy, took a canoe like 6 hours upriver. And it's like the jungle all looks the same. You're just going up this river and it's just a wall of green. And he finally just pulls over and you're like, this all looks the same. How do you know we're in the right place? You should trust me. And yeah, we get out, we go into the jungle and there's like this Chimane tribe. And I think the biggest difference is from if I were to compare their lives with our lives, and then I'll tell you what those differences result in after I tell you about the differences, is they move a lot more. So they get at least like 20,000 steps a day, which is about 10 miles of walking. They're obviously outside way more. I mean, they live in basically thatched huts they've built that are open walled. But then I think one of the big things is that they eat food that has just one ingredient. So natural foods. Like they eat nothing that's processed. It's all just like rice they grow, plantains they grow, fish. So they eat a lot of fish because they're right by the river. I actually posted.
They're omnivore actually, so they eat whatever. Okay.
Yeah, they eat. They also eat red meat. There's like this deer that they'll occasionally eat that they hunt. It's called a tapir, I think. I actually have on my Instagram a video of one of the kids in the tribe who caught this fish that's like this big. It's got to be like 60 pounds, which is like, I don't know, 30 kilos. And he's like chopping its head with a machete, just like violently, because it's gonna feed him for like a bunch of days. So they don't eat anything that's ultra processed. And meanwhile, in the US at least, and I would imagine it's very similar in Italy, about 60 to 70% of what we eat is ultra processed. Mm-hmm. So it has multiple ingredients along with different chemicals, right? Mm-hmm. It's like stuff that comes in packages, more or less. Now, when you look at the US and Italy too, the number one killer is heart disease. Like a person in the US, and I would imagine in Italy too, you have about a 50-50 chance of dying from heart disease. Mm-hmm. It is by far the thing most likely to kill everyone. Okay. And the Chimane tribe, they don't get heart disease.
So their primary source of dying is others, like
other stuff. Yep, other stuff. They die of accidents sometimes. Like there's snakes out there that are scary. Okay. They'll sometimes get illnesses that we've basically wiped out with medicine, but they don't die of heart disease. And if they can avoid accidents, they tend to live a long time. And so I think sort of the takeaway for me is that eating foods that have just one ingredient, so like rice, oatmeal, things like that,
sweet potatoes,
meat, sweet potatoes, potatoes, fruits, vegetables, nuts. Having your diet mainly comprised of those foods is probably going to go a long way to improving your health in the long run.
Yeah. So exercise plus this very basic diet.
Mm-hmm. And I have on my website, there's like if you go to 2%, so twopct.com, and you type in Chimane diet, so TSIMANE space diet, this thing will pop up that'll show you like how to try it. I did like a challenge for 2 weeks. Wow. So people can try it. And a lot of people who try it, they lose weight like fast. And they just start to feel better. And they usually continue it on. So,
that was a question. Like,
yeah, so my message is not never eat ultra-processed foods. You know, I don't want to live in a world where I can't occasionally eat like Lucky Charms cereal, right? Sounds terrible. Awful way to live. But at the same time, I think the message is really try and favor those foods when you can, because that'll also give you more room to eat stuff that's, processed and delicious and stuff like that.
Yeah. The thing is that it feels that you don't really have alternatives sometimes. Yeah. Like, so I came here all the way from Italy, and one thing that also some friends that are living in US, they told me, like we had this conversation around food, so how they're like selecting the food that they eat. And they were like, we're like extremely, extremely conscious, extremely attentive. And the thing that like for them is more concerning is the fact that even when we're talking about one ingredient foods, you still have to pay attention to the source because maybe like there are a lot of chemicals in it. Mm-hmm. This for me is the main point. Like, okay, I can spot when the food is bad. I'm saying like when it's has a lot of sugars, a lot of like chemicals in it, additives or whatever. So it's ultra processed, as you said. But if I see like an apple or a vegetable over there, and for me it's like food that I believe that makes me feel better, but then if it's not, so I'm not able to recognize. So still like it's another layer of complexity that.
Yeah. So for me, it's one of those things where I think about progress rather than perfection. So it's like if someone goes from eating Twinkie, do you have Twinkies in Italy?
No.
That's why you guys are healthier than us.
What are Twinkies?
Oh God. It's like this baked thing that comes in a package, and it's like got white flour, and then the middle is like this cream that's super. I mean, you could probably buy a Twinkie now and eat it in 20 years, and ittle be the same. It's just so full of
Twinkie.
Stuff.
I'm curious. I will check it out later.
Awful. Maybe don't. Where was I going with that? So if we're comparing, say, like someone eating crap like that to like now we're going to go into fruits, even if they were like to have some pesticides, they'd still be better. Yeah. They'd still be healthier.
Yeah.
So I think the move is like first focus on, okay, let's try and get more single ingredient foods. And then even just, I think washing produce can get rid of a lot of stuff, over the long term. And there's also interesting case studies where sometimes foods that are, say, organic, the conventional version actually has benefits that the organic version doesn't. And the organic can have downsides. And so you can drive yourself crazy trying to figure all this out, right? You really can. And so I think that's why I say kind of at the end of the day, let's go for progress or rather than perfection. And I will say, I think that Europe has generally done a better job controlling for a lot of those things.
Yeah, balancing out.
Yeah.
I really love this thing because sometimes you always like you tend to have this approach of one or like either this specific thing or nothing. So either all or nothing. And this can be extremely stressful sometimes. Like, you know, when you, I don't know, are very strict about your diet, about your movement, and you're not able to adapt to different circumstances. So either you're traveling or you find yourself in some, I don't know, events or circumstances that you have not, could have predicted. This can generate a lot of harm, I would say, in terms of stress management, in terms of like, I need to be like very strict on that. I need to eat only this kind of food, which I think that can be even like negative.
Yes.
And as you said, progress rather than perfection, and being also able to, I don't know, adapt to the things in the best way you can, right?
And there's also this weird, and this usually happens around diet, also happens around people who have substance abuse issues, called the disinhibition effect, where it's when you've done a good job for a certain amount of time, and then you feel like you messed up one time, and then, I ruined everything, and then people just go off the rails.
Yeah.
So it's like people ate really well for a month, and then one night, you know, they had a hamburger and fries, and they're like, well, now everything is ruined. And then they just go, the next day, they're back to the crappy diet.
Yeah.
And so I think having a not all or nothing mindset, I think is being adaptable and putting kind of things in the context of overall. Like it's totally fine to have a hamburger and fries every now and then. Yeah. If you're eating that 3 meals a day, probably not a good idea, right? But every now and then you're totally fine. And in fact, doing that every now and then, if you enjoy that, will probably lead you into longer term success. Not to mention, as far as I know, people only live once. And it's like, do you really want to never eat the foods that you absolutely love? Like never? Like that sounds like a terrible way to go through life.
Yeah.
You know, you got to find like, you know, learn to just be responsible.
Yeah. Like now recently I started to be very interested in longevity and this like topics like this. And I can see that there are two different approaches. So I can see that on one hand, I feel that there is a lot of lacking information. Like for instance, who knew that heart like diseases were the first killer? Like I didn't know that until
and they're preventable.
Yeah, and that's preventable actually. And I feel that so there's this approach in terms of we need to get the information given, and then there's this other approach of like having an extremely rigid lifestyle, like extremely rigid in terms of sleep, in terms of movement, in terms of like machine, like not even human but machine wise.
Right.
Yeah. What's your take on that actually?
I think that when people get into the machine thing with longevity, I think they have a boring life. And I think it's distracting them from they don't have, like, it's just a distraction. I mean, we know for sure that if you control your weight, if you exercise, if you eat generally well, you're probably, that's like a lot. Not to mention, like, let's do all the common sense stuff, like let's wash our hands. Let's like go to the doctor every now and then. If you look at what extended lifespans the most, what do you think it was? Do you know?
No.
In the last 100 years?
No? What? How much?
In the last 100 years?
No.
It was people washing their hands.
Yeah?
And treating water. Yeah. So people will think like, oh, we invented this pill or this medication. No. It's literally that doctors were like, oh, well, when we clean these tools, when we cut people open, they seem to not die of infection. Maybe there's something there. Maybe we should start doing that. And what if we washed our hands too? Hey, you guys should wash your hands too.
No way.
Oh, and our water. What if we cleaned that? What if we cleaned up our food? Like that did more for longevity. That like doubled lifespan. And everything we've put on after that is good, but it's nowhere near the basics. And so if you can just focus on the basics, I think all the other sort of distractions you see in the world of like hacking and longevity, maybe they'll give you, maybe they work. Yeah. But we don't know.
We don't know yet.
I can tell you for sure that it makes sense to exercise, like move around. I can tell you for sure it makes sense probably have some friends and go outside and probably don't eat Twinkies all day, right? But everything else can become, I think, just a distraction for people who there's some like underlying anxiety, and it could be like a death anxiety. I think there's a lot of factors here, right?
Do you feel there's a death anxiety? Like
I think there is among people, and it's like it gives the illusion of control.
Okay.
So humans like to have certainty and control, and if I can control these 100 blood panels and get them in a perfect range, then I'm going to be fine. Then I'm going to be fine. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you find a lot of these people are just nutcases. Like that's just an observation I've made.
Yeah.
The more people are obsessed with the longevity stuff, and I'm not talking about the average person who's like dabbles in it. I'm talking about the people who go really down the rabbit hole and are just consumed by it. It's I think it starts to become something more psychological happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I can see you're wearing a hat with this 2%. This is in honor of your newsletter,
It
right?
is. Yeah.
Why is it called 2%?
It comes from a stat that found that 2% of people take the stairs when there's also an escalator available.
Oh.
So 98% of people will choose the escalator if there's a staircase.
Wow.
Now, 100% of people know that taking the stairs is the healthier decision, right? It's a very simple decision. And if you look at the data, taking the stairs and applying that mindset, like I'm going to do this thing that is slightly harder in the short term that I know is going to give me a long-term benefit. If you can just apply that in different places throughout the day when you have the opportunity, that does a ton. Like even just the case of taking the stairs, people will be like, well, it's just the stairs.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? There's research that shows that people who take like 5 flights of stairs a couple times a week, they have like a 30% reduction in all-cause mortality or death at any time. And so it really is that simple.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of this metaphor for how in modern life we've kind of gone, okay, especially with movement, here's my exercise time. It's my 30 minutes in the gym. And then we have 23 hours and 30 minutes where we just don't do any of that. It's like if you can just move more throughout the day, you take the stairs. Maybe if you have a phone call for work, take it while walking. Carry your groceries. Instead of watching, 7 episodes of Netflix at night, what if you watched 5 and you went for a walk for 40 minutes? Just those little decisions, those just add up so much over the long haul. We just can't see it.
I read probably in one of the newsletters that your wife has bought a treadmill.
Yes.
Is it right? So is like those that you just put underneath your desk and okay.
Yeah, so people should read this one. It's called, I forgot the headline. I think it's called My Wife, the Insane Walker. So if you go to twopct.com, you'll find it.
Okay.
And so she gets this treadmill and it's designed to fit under a desk. So it doesn't have the stuff that pops up. She has a standing desk that goes under there. And I thought she would use it for like a half hour a day. Yeah. No. It's like 9 hours a day of walking. Yeah, and she walks like 30-something thousand steps every day.
But you can actually work while you're like walking?
She can. Can
you do phone calls while you walk?
She does it, yeah. She does phone calls. The only time she won't use it is if she has a meeting with like the upper level executives.
Okay.
Because then like your head is kind of like, bobbing. But if it's just with her team and like her boss is cool. She knows that she does that. Yeah. And so she can do those. And her work doesn't use cameras a lot either. So it's like.
That's good.
Yeah.
Did you see like improvements also in terms of her mood?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mood. Yeah. She walks more outside now too. Now she gets like, if she doesn't get her 30,000, she's like, you want to go for a walk? I'm like, yeah, sure. So, yeah.
Wow. And she used to be like a walker, or it's just like she started?
She would walk for sure. I mean, she walked a lot, but nowhere near 30,000 a day.
No, it's a lot.
I mean, that's just like a lot of.
It's really a lot.
Yeah, but it's like she's able to sneak that in as she works.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, she would just be sitting.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can, I'm not suggesting everyone go out and buy a treadmill desk, but I think if you can find ways to sneak movement into your day, it makes it a lot more sustainable than a gym. Like one of the things she said is that before she got the treadmill desk, she might have planned to walk at lunch. Right? She's like, I'm going to go for a walk or I'm going to work out or whatever. But then some meeting gets put on the calendar.
Okay.
And so when that happened, then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, well now I have this other thing. And like, shoot, I didn't work out today. Then you feel guilty. You're like, I feel lazy. This has allowed her to just get exercise in no matter what. And so she doesn't like feel that sort of, all right, I wasn't active today. Like every day she's going to be active. She's got to work.
I really love the fact that your approach is very related to lifestyle, and like at the end, it's really small changes that you can make that can lead to big differences in the long term. And I also feel that whenever you're able to intervene in this like small habits, like taking the stairs rather than the elevator, or just walking around and rather than sitting all the day long, you also tend to think yourself as a person who is taking care of her or his health, a person who is like, I don't know, has a certain attitude towards life, towards a healthy living and so on. So there is also a positive enforcement rather than I will go for this and I will start, I don't know, running a marathon because this is what this person told me. So I really think that it's all a matter of adapting your habits to your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think you're absolutely right that once you start to do things, you do more things that are good, right? You just sort of pick up, like, I kind of think about it as like you're constantly stretching the edge, right? It's like you kind of come up, you're doing this thing that you're like, oh, this is kind of hard, this is out of the ordinary, but eventually it becomes the norm. And then you do the next thing that's out of the ordinary. And then the next thing, and you're just constantly pushing that. And then you look back and you go, oh, wow, like I've changed a lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily need to feel like this big, massive overhaul. Because a lot of time when people want to make change, like if you think of diet, they'll be like, I'm going to go keto. It's like, how long do you think that's going to last? It doesn't last long because it's just such a crazy change.
And about diet, I really feel there's like a lot of confusing things. Like you really don't know what to do right now. Like keto diet, protein diet, then carnivore diet, like plant-based. I'm mostly on a plant-based, but for many reasons. And I actually feel that this is good for me, but I really think that there are many different pieces. And right now, when it comes to what's the best diet for your health in the long term, there is like so many different information, so many different studies. Yeah, it's really confusing.
I think the best diet is the one that you'll stick to. And so if people could just find a diet that is sustainable, that is going to keep their weight in the range they want it to be, that's probably the best one. If you put a gun to my head and you said, all right, but you got to tell us what to eat, I would say probably mostly eat single ingredient foods, a lot of plants, have some protein, have fish, meat occasionally. Don't overdo it. You don't need to go carnivore. There does seem to be a subset of the population that when on a carnivore diet, it really wreaks havoc on their heart. Not to mention, I just like personally, ethically speaking, not a huge fan of the factory farming system with how animals are treated.
Okay.
At least in the U.S., you guys are probably, everything is better with food in Europe. But in the U.S., it's not a good system. And so I personally don't eat a ton of meat, not necessarily for health reasons, but more for ethical reasons.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And when I do, it's like meat that I either hunt myself because I know where the animal came from, I know how old it was, I know how it lived, or I'll find like a rancher who is, just lets his cattle free range and,
Let's talk a bit about social connections. Does loneliness have an impact on our health?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it varies person to person, but I would say for most people, most of the time, loneliness has a ton of health impacts. Like a lot of it has to do with stress.
Stress, okay.
So it like increases stress, increases conditions like depression and mental health issues, and those in turn have downstream effects with like heart disease and even certain cancers. And so, yeah. I mean, we evolved as humans, we evolved in bands of, say 50 people. Like the groups that we evolved in were no more than 150 people. Most scientists think.
No more than 150?
No more than 150.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's this thing called Dunbar's number.
Dunbar, okay.
Yeah. And we had to work together all day. I mean, we were hanging out with people all day, right? If you were out gathering, you were doing it with other people. If you were hunting, you were doing it with other people. If you were in camp, everyone was around. And we're very, like in the past, a lone human is a dead human. So we need each other to survive. And so we really adapted like psychologically to do well with other people around us. Most people. At the same time, I think that being alone can be good too. So I'm not saying you have to be social all the time. And so I like in the books, I really make a distinction between loneliness and solitude.
Oh, what's that?
So
what's the difference?
loneliness is I want social connection, but I just can't get it for whatever reason. Solitude is I'm alone and I'm choosing to be alone.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
And oftentimes I think that can actually be very good for people.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. Like I definitely need the balance. I'll say that like most big ideas of the last, 500 years, they've come oftentimes when people have extended time alone to work on things and think things through and that sort of thing.
Do you plan also some time in which you're completely like alone, unplugged from the world? Do you have this like thing in your
Yeah,
life?
I usually like will go outdoors for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were like in this tribes, you traveled like in this remote places, did you notice their like setting in terms of community, in terms of like relationship management that we no longer have here in the more developed world?
Well, they definitely have to rely on each other for others, right? If we're going to have dinner and we want 3 courses, everyone has to work together and communicate to get 3 courses. If I'm going to go fish and you're going to get the rice and cook the rice, like we need to, okay, who's doing what? Great. Who's helping you? Who's helping me? We'll work together. We'll do this thing. And now to use the analogous example from today, if I want rice and meat, I can go through a drive-through or I could just order it on my phone, an app, and I don't even have to talk to another human.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So pretty much survival requires working with each other. And it always has until very recently, where now you could really not ever, there's literally people who will just live in their room and get delivery food. They're like, there's a word for it and I forget it. But it's this phenomenon in Japan of people who literally never leave their home and they just get everything delivered and
just like completely isolated. Yeah.
Totally isolated.
But do you think that social media connections are still valuable connections, like the ones that you have over your phone?
I think they can be. It's one of those things where social media obviously has benefits or else we wouldn't use it. But we need to ask, what is the benefit? And there can be multiple benefits in my mind. So I think the big benefit that people get is like short-term entertainment, relief from boredom. And I think that's okay sometimes, but because social media is really engineered to grab our attention, I think we can default to that all the time, right? It's like the quick, easy fix. If I'm in a line at a supermarket, phone.
Yeah.
You're flying out today, right?
Yeah.
How many times do you think you're going to look at your phone when you're at the airport?
So many.
So many,
Yeah.
right? So I think that can have negative impacts just simply because I think boredom can have benefits.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that. I think boredom can have benefits. I also think that having time just focused on something else can give you benefits. I think having time to let your mind wander is really beneficial. Obviously, if you're looking at your phone, you're probably not talking to other people.
Yeah, same.
Like I think before cell phones, people used to just chat with each other. Like that doesn't happen now. Sometimes that's good depending on who wants to chat with you. But I do think it has benefits in the sense that like I've made a lot of good friends over social media. You know, like you find some like-minded people, you can communicate, but what amplifies that is then I need to take that out of social media eventually and go meet up with people in the real world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What you mentioned, like one thing that was really interesting to me, like I came here in San Francisco, and I was working at a bar, and I was on my own, like just getting some work done. And then like just close to me on my left, there were 2 people who were discussing about really interesting things on mental health. They were like showing a presentation and so on. And then I was like, it gets really uncomfortable to interact with someone with the idea that you can look weird to them. But since I was in a completely different environment for me, I felt this urge to just create a bridge between myself and someone else. And so I just started this conversation just asking like, hi guys, what are you working on? And we actually started like chatting. We went out for dinner all together. Then like these people, like I started to hang on with them like on when I was there. And I really realized that I tend to do this when I'm in an environment that I don't know. Like when I'm in a place in which I don't have things that I can rely on. And I think that everything is much more evolving and dynamic. I tend to push myself more out of my comfort zone, also in terms of social connections.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know if it's something that also you noticed when you were like in this very like different places you visited, like this urge to create more human bonds, like more human connections, because you were in a difficult moment, probably like in a moment in which you were not 100% comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that at least in myself, I found that depending on the environment, sometimes I go places where you kind of want to keep a low profile. But I would say that putting yourself in new experiences is good, right? It kind of leads to more exploration, and that could be of places, that could be talking to new people. But what I was thinking of as you were telling me that story is I think that, and this is probably more a phenomenon in the US, but there are fewer places where people gather and just talk spontaneously today. So I think if you look at how like even bar and restaurant ownership has changed in the US, in the 80s, 80% of bars and restaurants were locally owned. There was like you knew the person who owned the bar. And you'd go to that place. It's like that show Cheers. Have you guys seen that? Do you have that? Has that made it over to Italy?
No.
It's an old show.
Okay.
People go to the bar and you just talk to people you don't know. You just bullshit. You make friends. You make connections. People, people talk about things. They might not always agree, but it's always friendly. It's always, great. And you just go and you can talk to anyone. And I think when you look at the data today, that's flipped. So now only 20% of bars and restaurants are locally owned and 80% are chains. And it's like not many people go to like a chain to like just sit around and talk to people.
Yeah.
And so I think you're getting less of that sort of, oftentimes it happened in bars, sometimes it'd be restaurants, didn't matter where. I think you're getting less of that sort of spontaneous. And I wrote about this on 2% too, with a woman whose name is Gwendolyn Bounds, and she wrote a book called Little Chapel on the River. It's really great. And it's about how after 9/11, she lived in downtown New York on 9/11. She was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. After 9/11, she moved to a town that was on the Hudson River up in New York, so like an hour outside of the city. And it had this little Irish pub. And it was like one of those community places where everyone from the community would just go there. And everyone knew each other. And it totally changed her life because she could just show up there at any moment and feel like she was home and have people to talk to. And the place is closed now. And I think there were tons of places like that across the US that are now closed. And I think we've lost something for that. So I think the challenge today is figuring out how do you find places like that? And I don't know what that looks like in Italy. I think you guys probably have a stronger local, cafe, coffee shop, bar scene. But in the US, I think people get it, can get it from different gyms. Like I think CrossFit was so popular. One, because it got people fit. More importantly, because people had to work out together. So you made these friends and you had these social connections. That was the real secret sauce at CrossFit.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. There's a group at Harvard that started looking at, now that in America at least, people are less involved in organized religion. It's like, what are they doing instead? And they identified CrossFit as one of the things because it brings together people with a common goal. And so it's like you're getting a rise of these different things that are kind of replacing that.
Yeah. Other than that, like I really am struggling in identifying some alternatives like to these gatherings. Like you either go, like, I don't know, you either enroll for a class or like CrossFit or yoga or whatever, or there is, maybe just you go in pubs and bars, but it's also like very difficult to meet like spontaneously new people without looking a little bit weird. So
I think you can do it. I think it's kind of like I said, it's like you got to kind of be willing to go through that short-term discomfort. And if you get, and if the person's like, why is this person talking to me? This is a weirdo. Then it's like, all right, it's not a person you probably want to be friends with anyways. I think volunteering can be good too.
Yeah.
You can meet a lot of like-minded people through that.
That's true.
So, yeah.
But going back to social media, like now we are in Las Vegas. So while I was reading your book, like one thing that got really interesting is how this like gambling mechanism is something that we are doing every day even if we don't realize that, right? So where the small so where are we trapped into this circle, into this cycle of addiction and like dopamine and like gambling thing?
Yeah. So for some context, because I live in Las Vegas and we have slot machines everywhere. You have slot machines in Italy, right?
No. Yeah, we do have them, but not like here.
Okay.
Like here you have slot machines everywhere.
Well, in Las Vegas for sure.
Yeah, in Las Vegas, yeah.
Yeah. So slot machines everywhere. And people play them around the clock. And when you look at that behavior, it kind of doesn't make sense because everyone knows the house always wins, right? If slot machines weren't profitable for casinos, there wouldn't be a bunch of billion-dollar buildings like a mile away from us down the road, right? You can tell they're making a ton of money. And so I just got interested in like, okay, why would people play slot machines when you know you're going to lose? And people just play them for so long. And in the US, at least, we spend more money on slot machines than we do on books, movies, and music combined.
In US, not only Las Vegas, like in US.
In the US, yeah. In the US. And so I want to figure out how a slot machine works. And the long story short of it is it works on this 3-part system, and I call it the scarcity loop. And so it's got these 3, anytime you have a behavior that meets these 3 conditions, it falls into this. It's got opportunity, it's got unpredictable rewards, and it's got quick repeatability. So opportunity is an opportunity to get something of value, okay? So with the slot machine, it's obviously money. Unpredictable rewards, you know you'll get the valuable thing at some point, but you don't know when, you don't know how valuable it'll be. So if you think about playing a slot machine, it's like you play a game, you could lose, you could win $1, you could win $1 million, right? It's like this crazy range of outcomes. Yeah. And so that unpredictability makes it exciting because it's like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And then quick repeatability, you can immediately repeat the behavior.
Yeah.
So people in, like the average slot machine player plays 900 games an hour.
900 games in
It's more than we blink. Yeah, just do. And so I learned that. And then once I sort of understand that, you start to see that 3-part system being put in a lot of other places. So what basically happened is that Las Vegas really figured this out in the 1980s. They changed how slot machines work, the reward schedule. They became more digital. And when that happened, slot machines just took off. And they became the main money makers for casino. And then you started to have other industries go, there's a lot of people in Las Vegas who are playing these machines where they know they're going to lose. And they keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So how do we do that for our product?
That sounds evil, actually.
Well, yeah, there's various ways to look at it. Yeah. And so this is the scarcity loop. This is what makes social media work.
Social media,
Yeah. So it's like, I'll give you an example. Opportunity, let's say you post. You have an opportunity to get likes, to get status, right? That feels good. But it's unpredictable. Once you post, you could get 1 like, and you're like, oh, that feels terrible. You could go viral. You could get 1 million likes, and you're like, I'm famous, right? That's amazing. And then quick repeatability. What happens after someone posts? They check the updates. Yeah. How many likes they get, right? But it's the same even with scrolling. It's like you have an opportunity to find a piece of content that's going to make you feel something. Could make you laugh, could make you cry, could make you mad. You scroll. You don't know when it's going to happen. And then, oh, you got one. You laughed. Oh my God, dog videos. Gets me every time.
True.
And then repeat, scroll. It's in dating apps. So you have an opportunity to find a date. You swipe. But I don't know what the directions are. And then, oh my God, I matched with someone. This is amazing. Swipe. So the guy who founded Tinder, like he said on a podcast, he was like, yeah, basically once we figured out this sort of gambling formula, that's when Tinder really started to take off. It's in sports betting. Do you have sports betting in Italy?
Yeah. I think we do, yeah.
Soccer? Or football, rather?
Soccer, football, yeah.
Yeah. Sports betting was interesting because it has been getting legalized here. And the problem with sports is that the games are like 2-3 hours. So it messes with that quick repeatability. And so what sports betting apps did is they now allow you to bet on plays.
Okay.
So I could say...
Actually, I don't know if we do have that in Italy. So you bet on the players?
Bet on the actual... So I could say, in this, I'll use a soccer analogy, which I don't really watch, but I could say, like, in the next 5 minutes, Italy is going to score a goal. I can bet on that.
Okay.
So that way I can make a bunch of bets throughout the game.
On the outcomes. Yeah. I don't know, actually.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
You probably regulate that because that's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Online shopping.
Online shopping as well?
Yeah, especially like a lot of sites will use a spinning wheel for a discount.
Yeah.
So you spin the wheel, 30% discount.
Oh.
And then you end up on the site and then like the search for the item begins, right? You're going to buy something. Oh, I found the right one. And then you buy it. And then you go buy more stuff. So the average home in the US at least now has 10,000 to 50,000 items. And people spend $1.2 trillion on stuff they don't need. And it's really the rise of, of course people were buying stuff they didn't need before the internet, but it's the rise of the quick online shopping you can do at any point that has these elements of unpredictability. I think that has really just driven that.
And I also feel that the tolerance level, whenever you're like used to this quick and easy stuff, the tolerance level, it's now very, very low because like even, I don't know, requesting a Uber drive or doing online shopping or like ordering a coffee, you get pissed off if you are not getting the thing that you wanted in a short time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like we're no longer used to that. And I feel that we are getting used to the next level in a very quick way. And it's very hard to get back, right? Like you get used to a very quick, I don't know, delivery or ordering your Uber driver on your phone, and then going like to the lower level, like, I don't know, having to walk to catch a taxi, it's like very difficult to adjust.
Yeah. So that kind of falls into this idea called prevalence-induced concept change. And it basically looks at adaptation, but it's about how when we start to face fewer and fewer problems, we basically just adjust. So we end up with the same number of problems, but our problems become progressively more kind of silly over time as the world improves.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so even if I were to be like, list all your problems, and you were to write them down, and I would, poof, they're gone. Within a week, you just have a new set of problems. You just look for problems.
Yeah, yeah. For instance, for you, like, what was the most difficult thing that you noticed when you traveled like this, like remote places, the thing that you had like a really low tolerance level at first, and then you got used to that?
If it's something where I'm outdoors, like when I was in the Arctic for so long, it was the cold.
The cold, okay.
This is kind of different than I think what you're asking, but I will, like when I showed up in the Arctic, I was so cold because I'd come from Las Vegas where it was like 100 degrees. And I go to the Arctic and it's like below freezing all the time. But after a week or two, your body kind of adapts.
Yeah?
Yes, you're still cold, but you're not as cold.
Okay.
Because there's like an adaptation period. I would say with travel, kind of thinking more practically, I would just say it's like the speed to what you're talking about of which things happen. Like, the US, everything's boom, boom, boom. But you have all these obstacles placed in your way when you're in countries that operate very different. And you just kind of have to go with it. I've had, at first it would kind of frustrate me. And then I'm like, you are in this other country. You're not going to bring all these like American practices to this other country. Like you just have to go with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about boredom before. Why do you think boredom is beneficial? Why do you think we need boredom?
So like big picture, boredom, just to define what boredom is basically this evolutionary discomfort that tells you whatever you're doing with your time right now, your return on your time invested is worn thin. So go do something else. Boredom is this uncomfortable cue that says, go do something else. So in the past, this used to help us survive because let's say you and I, we need food or else we're going to starve and die. And so we go, all right, we're going to go hunting. And we start to hunt and there's no animals. We can't find any animals. Boredom would kick on and basically tell us, hey, you need to do something else because this is not working. And then we would go, okay. And we would go, I don't know, find berries. And then we would be able to survive. If we didn't have boredom, we'd keep hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting, and then we'd die. So in the past, what boredom pushed us into was something that was often productive. We'd go find other food, we'd go find water, we would improve our camp. There's all these things we could do. And today, I think boredom gets co-opted by especially our cell phones. But there's also, Netflix, there's YouTube, there's a billion other things that steal boredom. So we now just have a really easy, effortless escape from boredom. And we get pushed into, if you're like me, dog videos on Instagram. And I'm not saying that that's always bad, but I do think that if you can just sit with boredom and see what other place it might take you, that can be beneficial. So I'm not saying that it's always going to take you into a place that is guaranteed productive, but I will say it opens up the possibility of something else. Mm-hmm. And if you can direct that in a way that is productive, I think that's useful.
I think it's really difficult. Like, how do you recognize how do you actually pull yourself out from these, social media trap, and you say, okay, now I'll just stay here and do nothing and just see where my mind takes. So this is like, as you described also this scarcity loop, I think mm-hmm. you mentioned that is hidden everywhere, like from WhatsApp, emails, mm-hmm. social media, shopping, and so on. How do you get out from this like loop and you embrace even this art of doing nothing, just mm-hmm. staying here and, pulling yourself to this wide space? How do you do that?
Well, I'll tell you what I do is every day I'll go for a walk outside and I'll just leave my phone.
Okay.
Because it's just this time to disconnect. It gets me outside, which we talked about has benefits. I'm moving, mm-hmm. that has benefits. And I can just kind of observe, let my mind wander. Mm-hmm. And it usually goes to interesting places. Mm-hmm. I'm not like, sometimes I'll just think about dumb stuff, but then every now and then you get like this insight that I'm like, I wouldn't have got that had I sat and watched Netflix during this like kind of downtime.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really easy practice. Just like resisting the pull, I think, of technology from time to time is good. I'm not saying people should never watch Netflix or do Instagram. I'm not saying that at all. Mm. But I am saying when you look at how we spend our time, that fills in all these gaps where we used to have other options. Mm. And so if you can balance that and say, okay, I'm still going to do Instagram and Netflix, but I'm not going to do it every second I have some downtime. I'm just going to sit and think. I'm going to, read a book. I'm going to do whatever. Just something different I think is useful.
I think I read also another interesting topic you covered on your book around noise. Like, how does noise, interact with our environments and just impacts us in a way that we usually don't believe it does, like being in a space that has like so many different stimuli, mm-hmm. so many different like noises. Like how is that? Like how this is probably part of the thing that you said before, that you just go in the nature and walking where mm-hmm. you have like more natural noises and like not just artificial ones.
Yeah. Well, humans have increased the loudness of the world by fourfold. And so if you think about how we lived for most of time, it was mostly silent, except the noises we did hear were more from nature. So it'd be like wind, it might be from like leaves rustling, it might be from animals, creeks, things like that. And when we heard a loud noise, that was usually a warning sign, right? It was like, storm's coming in, figure out a way to be safe.
Yeah.
It was a rock slide and you better watch out. It was a predator and you better watch out. So we evolved to respond with effectively stress hormones around loud noise, right? If someone comes up behind you right now and goes, you're going to, right? There's a reason for that. But now we kind of live in loudness. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of results in this sort of slow drip, like low-level stress in people. And so you find that when people live in louder areas, they have worse mental health outcomes.
Oh,
There's
really?
like a significant change, yeah. And so I think that this is a case for just the takeaway for the average person is, I think having some time in silence can be good. Because even today I read some crazy stat where more than 50% of the population, at least in the US, keeps their television on all the time. They're not even watching it. They just need the noise in the background.
Way.
And so what happens is, and this is an interesting study in Australia, when people are forced to be in silence, they find it uncomfortable at first because we're so used to living in noise, but then they start to calm down and their stress levels decrease. And actually, creativity and productivity increase. So there's other interesting studies where they'll take groups of workers and they'll put half in an open concept office that's like, it's like open with all these other...
Open space,
Yeah, open space. So it's loud.
Yeah.
And then they'll put others in like a quiet office and they'll have them complete work. And they'll poll them and they'll both say, yeah, I think I did good work. But when you actually look at the differences in work, the people in the quiet office produce more work and the work is judged more creative, better quality. And that's just because people tend to do better, especially with thinking and thought and creativity when they're in silence. And so I think there's a role. I think there's a role for like music. But I think kind of my bigger point is that I'm not saying live in silence forever, but I am saying that we've really removed silence.
Yeah.
And we don't feel comfortable in silence. And if you can kind of get through that, I think you can find some interesting benefits.
Yeah. And I'm also impressed by the relationship with productivity and creativity because like nowadays I can feel that most of the offices are like open space ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I walked a little bit in San Francisco and I noticed that most of the offices were like just open space and you don't have a desk.
It's terrible. It became this kind of thing, especially in Silicon Valley. The idea was like, if we get people together, they're going to be more creative. And it's like, no, it doesn't actually work that way. Creativity is usually a single individual who has time to think for themselves and be in silence. And then they can bring that back to the group and the group can execute. Putting someone in noise all the time is not going to move the dial as much. It's just not. Actually, I had a job like 8 years ago. And one of the reasons I left it is because they were moving to open concept office. And I was just like...
That was the reason why you left?
There were multiple reasons, but that was definitely one where I'm like, I do not want to work in people talking and playing their music and all this crap,
So Michael, one thing that I want really people to take of this conversation is to like do more complex things, like more difficult things. Why would you think that we actually need to do that?
Because that is how people find meaning and how they grow. If you just keep doing the thing you're good at, you're never going to improve, really. I mean, you have to like stretch your limit. And then when you look at how people find meaning, it's always from the difficult things. Like we don't learn and grow and expand what we're capable of when times are easy. It's when times are tough. And there's good reasoning for this. I'll give you an example like from this psychologist told me about from evolution. It's like if you walk outside of your tent or your teepee, whatever we lived in, and there's just food right there. You're like, oh, great, this is nice. But if you have to go search for food all day and you don't find it, the next day you can't find it. And now you're really hungry. Now you're worried. When you find that food, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? You get really, really excited about that. And it has to have a lot more weight emotionally. And that encourages future persistence, right? Because it's like, at the end of that, when you find it, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a metaphor for many different things, right? Insert work, insert improving your health, insert improving your fitness, right? At the end of that struggle, once you actually get to the point where you want to be at, that gives us way more meaning, way more. And like I can tell you, the most important things that have happened in my life, they weren't easy.
Yeah.
Right. And you look back on them and you go, I learned so much and I grew from that. If you get things just handed over to you, it's nice, but you don't value them. You don't learn. You don't grow. You just don't get to really develop as a person.
If you were to think about one thing that people should do more of and one thing that people should do less of, what would that be?
I would say, how I'll answer more of is given what we just talked about, there's this idea that I talk about in my book called misogi. The idea is that like once a year, go out and do something really challenging, like really challenging. 50-50 shot at failure where you're like, I don't know if I can do this. It can be anything. Make it up. If you've only run 5 miles before, try running 10. If you've never tried sushi and that just freaks you out and like, oh my God, I can't do that, try sushi. Like it can be something,
whatever,
just something that's going to be really, really hard that you think you really have a 50-50 shot at failure. Go try it. Because what happens is that as you struggle along the way and you think, I can't do this, but then you keep going. You keep going. You realize that you undersold what you're capable of along the way, right? You're going to look back and go, well, I didn't think I could go this far, but I'm past that line. And so I've clearly have more on board than I thought.
Yeah.
And that realization, that becomes really important in this sort of metaphor for all different things in life. So I think humans are way more capable than we believe. And there's a good reason for that, because it's like in the past, you didn't want to be the person who was like, I can do everything and anything. And then you go out and try it and you die, right? You want to be the person who's really risk averse. You're like, I don't know if I can do that. But if you get put in a position where you have to do something,
you'll do that.
You can get through it, right? So it's kind of like, it's almost like a defense mechanism to keep us safe that we undersell what we're capable of. But now we don't live in a world of like saber-toothed tigers and storms. We have roofs over our head, and that like is a kind of limiter today. And so you just have to kind of go out and experience hard things, and you'll learn that about yourself. Things people should do less of, I would say Twinkies.
Twinkies.
Yeah.
Now I'm very curious about this Twinkies.
Which is really like a metaphor for don't eat too much ultra-processed food. Don't sit on the couch too much. Just get out, move. Like, I think that if you just kind of look at how humans lived for most of time, there's a lot of good hints in there about what you should do today to be healthy and well. It's like we lived outside. We ate mostly food. We only ate food that had one ingredient. We moved all the time. We were pretty social.
Yeah,
like, just kind of use that as a model and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was the name of the tribe again?
Chimane. Chimane.
Have a little Chimane lifestyle.
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Michael. It was really, really interesting. And I hope to welcome you in Italy sooner or later.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, now you've come to Las Vegas.
Now it's your
seeing
turn.
all the slot machines. You have yet to see a Twinkie, but hopefully that can happen before you leave the US. Yeah, it'd be great to visit.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. To visit.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.